Hey everybody, my name is Daniel Lang, and in this video I'm going to be walking you through how I did the study of Arya Stark, aka Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, and walking you through my process and just sharing, I guess, my insight, if you can call it that. So yeah, I'm starting off now with a big blob and blocking in some facial features really early on in this stage of the painting. When I approach studies, I always like to think about my focus that's going to be taking up most of my attention. And the reason why I do this is because there's a lot of different things that you can focus on in a study, but by having, like, say, one or two clear, defined objectives, it makes the painting process a lot easier because you're constantly going back and seeing if you're meeting your goals. So for instance, right now it looks like a weird zombie creature, not really Maisie Williams, but that's my goal, and I'm trying to get the likeness of her. You can even see me just writing LOL on the canvas. Yeah, it's usually at this stage, the early blocking in stage, that always takes a lot of resilience because, at least in my case, it doesn't really look very good for a long time, and then all of a sudden things start falling into place, and just having the patience and knowing that you can rework things and change things up and everything, and just getting through that hard slog is a skill in itself, which I'm still trying to work on. So yeah, getting all the foundations first and blocking in the main shapes of the face is a really good way to start, because you don't get caught up in details very early on. The details are sort of secondary when you think about the bigger picture, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. For me, I usually struggle a lot with painting eyes. There's something about it that I don't really have down yet, and so I leave it for the last stage just because I know I'm going to be spending the most amount of time. So you'll see me working in on the chin and the nose and trying to get those areas to a decent standard first before I even think about tackling the eyes. You'll also notice that I'm only working in black and white, and that's because I don't really want to get bogged down with color just yet. I'm really just trying to focus on form at this stage, and so yeah, building up the chin, building up the corners of the mouth, the eyes, still reworking the silhouette as I go along. I should also note that I have a reference picture that I'm working from, which I'll put on the screen here, and I'm looking at it on my second monitor and really trying to get as close as I can, basically, to the photo. And it's not going to be perfect, but the objective isn't perfection, it's just getting this study to look like Arya Stark. By the way, Season 8, I'm not going to start ranting here, but oh my gosh, what a train wreck. I mean, I love Game of Thrones, it's amazing, and I really enjoy a lot of the visuals that we got to see, but oh my god, that writing. What happened? So I'm starting to paint the eyes now, and I'm using a mid-tone gray just to block in the overall shape. And now I'm starting to use a bit of lines to define the overall proportions, trying to get the iris down, and also the eyelid. Yeah, it's very rough at the moment, but as long as you have something there, you can always rework. Yeah, so still reworking the eye, changing the eyebrow proportions too, just to match it, adding in a couple of small highlights, but I always leave the most extreme areas of contrast for the very end. The reason why, it's just because, again, it's the way that I work, and I build up my image very slowly, and I want to go in there and add in, you know, the little glint in the eye and the brightest highlights and stuff like that, but I have to be very patient, because I feel if I realize that I've made a mistake and I need to go back and rework, then it's I've already moved on to a next stage. Yeah, at this stage, now that I'm rewatching this footage, I realize that these eyes are a little bit too small, which I catch later on, but yeah, I don't like to zoom in too much in the image, as I say, zooming in right there. But it's the only reason why is just because I want to have all the proportions down first. I'm painting a little bit of bounce light on the nose there, and starting to work on the hairline, other bits of the face, zooming out a lot just to make sure that it, you know, starting to get it to look like Arya. a couple of times during this video you'll see me resize the eyes, and that's the thing that I really love about digital painting, is that you get to go back and make those changes like you just saw there. Weird eyes just popping out of her head. And yeah, just really having the flexibility to change your painting or study without really damaging it too much, which you can't really do traditionally. You'll have to rework those areas and find something else to do. And so yeah, I've flipped the canvas upside down now, and I'm really trying to think of it in an abstract way. So I'm not thinking about, I'm painting an eye or a nose necessarily. I'm just seeing light and form and trying to match that as best as I can with my reference image. And also things that I'm thinking about is the angles of things in relation to each other, the size of things. I'm also squinting a lot to see values a little bit clearer so that I can replicate that in my own study here that I'm doing. And yeah, really paying attention to the eyes at this stage. They look kind of freaky upside down, don't they? Just like staring into the deepest pits of your soul, but that's fine. This is why we do art anyway, is to express ourselves. So yeah, I was just touching up little bits of the collar and stuff like that, and adding more detail into the piece. Just adding a couple of highlights over on the hair, nothing too exciting. I should also mention that this time lapse is sped down to about 10 minutes, and it probably took me, from memory, I think it was like 2 hours for the study. And I just want to stress that it's your study. Don't try and compare yourself to other people or other artists. If you feel like you need more time to spend on something to really get the most out of it, then totally go for it. And don't worry that other people are doing studies in an hour or anything like that as well. Just sometimes having longer form studies are just as beneficial as having a bunch of short ones. It, again, really just depends on your goal and what you're trying to achieve. You'll see me now trying to implement some kind of interesting background with a few textured brushes that I have in Photoshop. Ultimately, I decided against it because it didn't really look very good, and I wanted just the focus to be on Arya. And yeah, right now something weird is happening to my tablet and trying to figure it out. And I'm like, and then I realized actually that I had the layer on multiply, and so every time I was painting, it was creating darker values underneath, which is not what you want. At this stage, the study is pretty much finished, and all I'm doing now is I'm just adding a couple more extra details, polishing things up a little bit. You'll see me add some smoother transitions to a couple of the values within the face and around the neck. But yeah, at this point, I feel like I've gotten the most out of it already, and I feel like it's been really a good experience for me practicing characters. I don't really do characters a lot, and so having this one was very beneficial. Just adding a couple of extra details around the eyes here, and yeah, this is actually my first YouTube video, so if you guys are interested in seeing more or hearing more about my process, or perhaps maybe something that I left out or something that you would like to know in greater detail, please just let me know in the comments below. I want to try and make this an ongoing thing if possible. But yeah, if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks!